What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily, and in this video, we are checking out the new Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G. Now, if you feel like you've got a little bit of deja vu, like you've seen this phone before, you're not wrong. Motorola did release a new Moto G Stylus for 2021 back in January, and now, barely 6 months later, they've come out with this one. Obviously, this new Moto G Stylus has the 5G support and distinction, along with a few other random changes that sort of end up making it a different device from the original. And I'm going to go over what's changed, what's new, and also what's basically the same too, and everything else you need to know about this phone in this video. First things first though, let's just go ahead and quickly unbox it and see what all comes inside the package when you buy one. Slicing the sticker and pulling off the lid of the box here, the first thing we do get is the phone itself, of course. We'll put that to the side for just a minute. And as far as what else comes included, well, not much really. Inside the first little cardboard packet is your usual selection of paperwork, a quick start guide, and a SIM ejector tool there as well. No case for the phone or anything else. Beneath all that junk, you do still get a USB-A to USB-C charging cable paired up with Motorola's seriously underpowered 10-watt charging brick. And if you're hoping to get something faster, unfortunately, this is the fastest charging brick this device supports. So that's all the stuff that comes inside the package. Here is the new Moto G Stylus 5G once again, and right off the bat, you can see that this new phone does now come in a brand new color, Cosmic Emerald, and I believe this is the only fit and finish this device is available in. Now, as far as pricing and availability, this already is a pretty important thing to talk about. While the original 2021 Moto G Stylus retailed for $299, this new Moto G Stylus 5G sells for $100 more, $399 unlocked direct from Motorola or from places like Amazon. Now, with that price jump, you do obviously get not only 5G network support, but a bit of a bump up in internal specs as well. 6 gigs of RAM now instead of 4, 256 gigs of internal storage versus 128, and a few other minor add-ons, which I'll talk about in a second. But objectively, it's important to note that while the new Moto G Stylus 5G is more expensive, it is also a better device in some instances. There is one other important thing to mention though. Here in the US, the Moto G Stylus 5G will also be sold through some carriers and prepaid networks, such as Boost Mobile. And the phone that those networks are selling is actually cheaper, but it has lesser specs. It's back down to 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. So not every new Moto G Stylus 5G is created equal. It really depends on where you end up buying it from, whether you get it unlocked or through a carrier. Just keep an eye out, make sure you're getting the one you want, and if you're interested, I'll leave some links down below in the video description to where you can get this phone at its cheapest current prices. Physically, this new Moto G Stylus 5G doesn't look that different from the original, but there are a couple of things worth mentioning. Size-wise, we're dealing with the same 6.8-inch form factor, the same corner hole punch selfie camera cutout up front, similar bottom chin, and essentially the same 85% screen-to-body ratio we saw before. It's relatively slim bezels bordering a fairly tall, large display, and in the hand, once again, this is a very big, beefy device. That's great if you love watching your content on such a large screen, but just keep in mind that one-handed use can be a bit of a stretch at times. As far as the design and the materials, this is once again an all-plastic build, but like I mentioned earlier, the Cosmic Emerald Green colorway is exclusive to this phone. And honestly, I think this is a pretty great looking finish. It almost looks like an emerald jewel with a subtle shine, mix of dark and light shades, and the plastic material actually feels thicker, sturdier, and more high quality than some other smartphone plastics, which is kind of nice. Also, this Moto G Stylus 5G is what Motorola describes as water repellent, so a splash of water shouldn't hurt it at all. And all in all, I think this is a pretty well built, good looking device from start to finish. It's nothing new, just more of a refresh if anything else. Taking a closer look around, on the left side, you'll find the SIM and SD card tray. Expandable storage is available on this phone, which is great to see. On the right, there's a textured power button paired with the usual volume buttons. Down below, the headphone jack remains, alongside the USB-C charging port, single speaker setup, and the stylus, of course, which is what this phone is all about. And I'll demo that in just a minute. Around back, that famous Motorola dimple fingerprint sensor combo is still there, alongside a redesigned quad lens camera setup. And before we get into the specs and all the important stuff, let me just quickly demo the speaker and fingerprint sensor so you can see what those are all about. Now, to be honest, the single speaker setup on the Moto G Stylus is pretty quiet and produces a sound that isn't too great in my opinion. Once again, Motorola just refuses to bring back dual stereo speakers, which they used to have in 2020, but decided to just abandon on all of this year's phones. And on this device in particular, I think the out loud listening experience suffers in more ways than one. Here's an audio sample so you can get an idea. With the fingerprint sensor, this is something I'm glad to still have on a device like this. The physical sensor is obviously very easy to feel for and find. Around back, it has that little inlay so you know exactly where it is. It's quick and it's accurate and almost instantaneously retries if it happens to miss you the first time. It's something I think Motorola should just keep on having on all their smartphones. Also, what's sort of interesting, this is one of a few Motorola devices this year with face unlock as well. Motorola, for whatever reason, seems to remove or add this unlocking method at random depending on the device. This phone got it and it works pretty well. It's maybe a little slower than the fingerprint sensor at times, but either way, pairing both unlocking methods, I think you'll be able to get into this phone rather quickly. Now, for those of you hoping to maybe get a better viewing experience on the Moto G Stylus 5G, that isn't the case. And in fact, we have almost the same exact screen setup as the original phone. The 6.8-inch display is an IPS LCD panel coming in at a resolution of 2400 by 1080 and packing in around 387 pixels per inch. There's really not much more to say here. It's a pretty average display, and unfortunately, screen technology has just never been Motorola's strong suit. While you can get a phone now with a 90 or 120 Hz refresh rate at this same price point, Motorola seems content with continuing to offer just a super basic viewing experience. This screen in particular, I don't think it's as bright as I would have liked either, but all in all, it's completely fine. It's certainly great to have such a large display for watching movies and whatnot, but at that $400 price point nowadays, there are better screens out there. Inside, the new Moto G Stylus 5G does get a different processor, now powered by the Qualcomm Snapdragon 480 5G chipset, the Adreno 619 GPU, and 6 gigs of RAM, like I said earlier. And if you're maybe comparing numbers, the Moto G Stylus from January did have a Snapdragon 678 inside, but it wasn't a 5G chipset. And technically, even though this 480 5G is lower in numbers, it's not a worse processor. It's, I guess, actually slightly better, as weird as it sounds. And honestly, out of the box, this device does feel fairly fast and fluid. It has the Android 11 update, which is nice, covered in Motorola's own Android skin, something I think you're probably used to seeing if you're a Motorola user. Now, I will say that the unlocked version of this phone with 6 gigs of RAM, like the one I have here, makes this phone feel fairly powerful for both everyday use and for gaming, multitasking, and anything else you might want to do. The carrier version with 4 gigs of RAM, however, is probably a little underpowered for a device like this, but I think all in all, there's a lot of potential here still. With that being said, Motorola probably stuck a less than ideal chipset into this phone, considering its price point and considering we're so far into 2021 now. Overall though, the internal specs are, I think, an upgrade technically, but not as much as a definitive and noticeable upgrade as maybe some people would have liked. Now, one thing that did actually change significantly for the better is the battery capacity inside this phone. You now have a fairly large 5,000 milliamp battery inside the new Moto G Stylus 5G compared to 4,000 milliamps in the previous phone. And that, I think, is substantial enough to yield a difference in longevity. At the same time, you do have slightly more powerful specs, like I said, and potentially 5G use depending on your network availability. So those are factors that might level the playing field in the end, but all in all, battery capacity has been increased. Unfortunately, like I mentioned at the start, battery charging speeds are very, very slow by 2021 standards, and this is another area where Motorola just seems uninterested in offering anything better. So the main reason you'd probably consider the Moto G stylus right now is, of course, for its stylus support. There's a built-in pen at the bottom of the phone that you can use with some stylus-specific apps and add-ons, and with the rumored death of Samsung's Note line and LG ending its smartphone business, which in turn kills the Stylo 6, this is now really the only major phone that offers a built-in stylus. It's probably the one and only reason you'd even consider this device when compared to Motorola's dozens of other smartphones. But while Motorola, I think, could have made improvements to the stylus experience, they once again decided to just stick with the basics. The actual pen itself is the same simple metal pointer tool we've had before. It has a clicky top, but no actual buttons, no Bluetooth functionality. It's nothing more than a generic metal pointer with a soft rubber tip. And its primary function is as an extension of your finger. You can of course use the stylus to tap, touch, and swipe your way through the phone, which I know some people like to do. But what's unique about the Moto G stylus on the software side of things are the little extra stylus add-ons and apps you'll see pop up on the screen when you pull the stylus out. And with this, I haven't found anything we haven't seen before. There's the same Motorola coloring book, which is nice to pass the time, the Notes app, the screenshot shortcut and editor, GIF creator, Google Keep Note support, and you could of course customize the little stylus menu to add and rearrange whatever apps you want easy access to, whether they're stylus related or not. In using the stylus, you'll also find that there is still that noticeable delay between the line on the screen and where your pen is actually touching. So that takes some getting used to. And overall, like I said, the stylus experience and stylus tech, or lack thereof, it's all basically the same as we've had in years past. I think Motorola is in a really unique position here to truly offer the only stylus smartphone experience and finally make it good, but at least this time around, it remains the same basic stylus experience we've had for a few years now. Finally, let's talk about the cameras around back. And strangely enough, this is actually a mixed bag. Hardware-wise, we get almost the same setup as the previous phone. There's a 48 megapixel main lens, the same 8 megapixel ultra-wide lens, a slightly better 5 megapixel macro lens for whatever reason, and the same 2 megapixel depth sensor. The selfie camera remains the same as well. It's a 16 megapixel shooter. And inside the camera app, you'll find the usual feature set that includes some useful stuff like night mode and pro controls, alongside some other Motorola specific feature sets, all very familiar. What's sort of strange though is that this new Moto G stylus drops 4K video support, something the previous phone did offer. And with a couple quick sample shots here out of the box, I found the end result to be a bit iffy. Color-wise, the picture sets my skin tones between my face and my arms totally different, and there's significant smoothing or beautifying with my face that almost looks unnatural. On the bright side, edge detection and background separation are on point with portrait mode, and I think the rear camera produces a much more balanced and realistic looking image. So maybe it's the selfie camera that just misses the mark. Either way, I look forward to putting the camera to the test in my full review. It just seems like there's a bit to be desired, for one, and with Motorola taking away 4K video support, there also seems to be some efforts in removing some stuff as well, which I'm not really a big fan of. So I know this video and this phone are probably pretty confusing, but let me sum up everything by saying that this new Motorola Moto G stylus 5G is in some ways better than the original 2021 Moto G stylus from January. It's got 5G network support, if that's something you can utilize, more RAM and storage, a better processor, bigger battery, but some things, like the screen, remained exactly the same. The speaker setup, I think, might actually be worse, and there were some random things taken away. Also, the stylus setup, the whole point of this phone, didn't get any upgrades or otherwise change at all, which I think is a big miss. Is this phone worthy of upgrading if you already have the 2021 Moto G stylus? Probably not. It's only been 6 months after all, but if you have a previous Motorola phone or older Moto G stylus, I think it makes more sense to just jump up to this one instead now. What do you guys think about this phone? Is it something you're maybe considering? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know your thoughts, of course. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though. Be sure to follow Tech Daily on Twitter and subscribe to the Tech Daily YouTube channel if you haven't already. and I'll see you guys later.